Good morning. Please be seated. Before we begin, some quick announcements. Please turn off your phones, watch alarms, tablets, and any other device that beeps, chirps, talks, or otherwise makes noise that could be distracting. Thank you. The ceremony will last about 2 hours. Please avoid getting up and walking in the aisles during the ceremony because doing so may disturb others. With these formalities aside, please relax and enjoy. Welcome, family, friends, faculty, guests, alumni, and graduates, to the 2017 Graduate Convocation of the Maxwell School of Citizenship and Public Affairs of Syracuse University. I'm David Van Slyke, Dean of the Maxwell School, and it is my great honor to welcome you here today. I would also like to acknowledge, with respect, the Onondaga Nation, the indigenous people on whose ancestral lands we now stand. For all of you, I know that this has been a challenging and I hope a rewarding experience. As the students have learned, and as their friends and family have most likely heard, the different graduate programs at Maxwell are shaped by a faculty that takes seriously its educational responsibilities to push the students beyond the long reading lists, assignments, papers, presentations, and group projects. As researchers and teachers, we are committed to creating a learning environment that is focused on the future through a deep understanding of the past and present, thereby enhancing students' abilities to adapt to complexity and uncertainty through the development of critical thinking and analytical skills. Because you, our students, come from different backgrounds, different disciplines, and have quite varied expectations for your professional work, a Maxwell education is oriented toward preparing all our students with the values of the Athenian Oath, to leave a place greater and more beautiful than you found it. This orientation is our commitment to citizenship and public service, and we believe strongly that public service can happen anywhere, in any sector or work, and through your professional, avocational, and personal pursuits. Across the world, we need active and engaged citizens, individuals with a commitment to diversity of perspective, experience, and goals, and a willingness to listen, learn, and work to develop dialogue that is focused on improving and strengthening our communities and not simply benefiting our individual positions. Today, I'd like to ask you to join me in remembering Professor Ralph Ketchum. Before he passed, Ralph had been a professor at Syracuse University in Maxwell for 54 years. His commitment to the ethos and practice of active citizenship influenced and inspired generations of students, faculty, staff, and the broader community. He was dedicated to dialogue and discussion and a true exchange of ideas, genuine, expansive debate about the meaning and purposes of democracy and the place of the common good in American public life. Ralph left Syracuse University and the Maxwell School better and more beautiful as a result of his commitment to the mission of our School of Citizenship and Public Affairs. At the conclusion of today's ceremony, you will become alumni of the Maxwell School of Citizenship and Public Affairs and Syracuse University. You will follow in the tradition of alumni like Ralph Ketchum, and we believe that your commitment to public service, wherever you are, will remain a defining legacy of your experience here at Maxwell. We hope that you will keep us updated on where you are and what you're doing so that we can celebrate your accomplishments and the difference you're making in the lives of others. We also hope that you'll take the opportunity and seize it to become engaged alumni by giving of your time, your expertise, and your gifts. To kick off this ceremony, it is our custom to have a graduating student offer a greeting to our guests on behalf of the class. This year's student address will be given by Aygul Mammetnazarova. As Aygul comes to the podium, let me tell you a little bit about her. Aygul is graduating with an executive master's in public administration, focused on NGO leadership, management of organizations, and public administration. Her professional career started at the age of 18, when she joined an unregistered advocacy group in Turkmenistan, defending human rights. She worked particularly on the monitoring of women's rights in prisons. This information served as a basis for an internationally recognized report of the Norwegian Helsinki Committee on Human Rights Abuses. Most recently, Aygul worked as a project assistant in the United Nations Development Program and as a social worker at a nonprofit organization promoting the rights of people with disabilities. Aygul holds a bachelor's degree in social work from the Institute of Psychology and Social Work in St. Petersburg, Russia. Aygul, would you please join us?
Good morning, Dean Van Slyke, Associate Deans, London and Faulkner, faculty, friends, family, and of course, graduates of 2017. Today's event is a symbolic mark of conclusion of an important stage in our lives, recognition of forthcoming changes, farewells, and quests, and reflection on what we have achieved during this period. Graduation is frightening and exciting at the same time. While we were studying, failures and success were defined by assignments and ability to read, write, think, and understand fast and efficiently. Following certain academic rules and requirements, we could take control over the progress. Although studying was stressful, it was set and scheduled for us. We had a clear plan for the whole period. Now we come back to the unpredictable life, full of various circumstances that are out of our control. Everything is murky. We have to set our own deadlines, lessons to learn, and responsibilities. There is no more syllabus to follow. I entered the Maxwell School with hopes that all my doubts and ambivalence would be magically solved. I thought that the master's degree would give me everything that I lacked professionally and personally. I definitely gained incomparable experience and knowledge, and many puzzles were built into clear pictures for me. However, I have more doubts about my future than I had before. As Russian poet Alexander Griboyedov called it, woe from wheat, meaning that the more we know, the more we doubt. From conversations with my fellow students, I realized that I'm not the only one who is unsure and concerned about the future. We are all in the same boat. And as a student speaker, I want to share with you how I manage my challenges of life and what is my pillar of confidence. My journey to the Maxwell School was winding, and it took me a while to get here. My family was oppressed by the government in the early 2000s. My mom and other adults were taken away for many years. I was lost at 17, not knowing what to do next and being responsible for my 2-year-old brother. My life was flipped upside down and all my plans were trampled. At that gloomy time, my life could have taken any path, leading to the disadvantaged existence. However, by very fortunate coincidence, I turned at the right place and met my future mentor, who modified my fear and confusion into action. I became a human rights advocate. The encouragement of just one person radically shifted my direction of life and built a solid base for my entire career. That's how my journey to Maxwell began. And that's when I learned the lesson about the importance of support. This lesson became my underlying philosophy of growth and development. Behind every turning point, there were always people without whom I wouldn't have succeeded. What we think about ourselves and our abilities is not always true. I wouldn't have never stayed here if my husband did not believe in my capabilities and saw in me more than I could. His constant pushing forward and encouragement helped me to become a Fulbright scholar and get here. And today, he crossed 7,000 miles over the ocean to witness how his support and belief created a new person who is happily sweating under her gown. But my supporters group did not only consist of my family. I was lucky to meet my wonderful roommates. They saw me being crushed by the frustration and stress that was part of adapting to the schoolwork, an absolutely new culture, environment, and food. By the way, food is very important, believe me. I would never have survived without their amazing patience and understanding, and feeding. My classmates and groupmates, who sometimes intimidated with their intellect, experience, and professionalism, were also one of the sources of nurture and motivation. I remember sitting at the corner of the room during the first day of orientation, staring at people with fear and confusion. Whenever somebody talked to me, I replied them incoherently, nervously smiling, just like that right now. I think it was more showing my teeth than smiling. My classmates helped me feel more confident and also figure out all those supply and demand curves that chase me on nightmares. They never made me feel that being a non-native speaker, struggling with the accent and comprehension, made me less capable to cope with the coursework. Coming from so many different countries, they also taught me how to make sushi, Indian dances moves, what child education in Tajikistan is like, how to eradicate corruption in Peru, and what is the situation in Cuba. They shared with me happy moments of post-exam parties and stressful finals week that added dozens of gray hairs and a couple of wrinkles, unfortunately. I'm sure that many of us can recall enrichment of Maxwell's diversity. I can't overemphasize enough the sincere support of the professors and Maxwell staff. During the office hours, they went beyond their professional obligations and spent their time discussing with me the challenges and ambiguities of seeking the prospects. The words of Professor McPeak keep popping up in my mind. Explore the life. Don't be afraid. Probably he doesn't remember about this. Today, I'm happy to say that my army of supporters has expanded, and I'm much stronger, more professional, and self-confident than when I first came here. We all have changed through the course of study, and we keep changing because of ourselves and the people who surround us. We don't achieve success alone. We need our team, supporters, and peers to get us where we want to be. It's like rowing a boat. It's possible to do it alone, but much easier and faster in collaboration with others. Maybe that's why so many courses at Maxwell involve group work. It's not only about dividing responsibilities, but also about trust, openness, and opportunity to be vulnerable and ask for help. Maxwell united us, as Professor Nabachi called us, citizens of the Maxwell School, and made us lasting allies. Probably, we always will doubt our potential and abilities in the future, and it's impossible to predict success or failure. But I keep remembering the words of my friends, that I'm not what I think about myself. I'm better, and I'm worthy to be a citizen of the Maxwell Society. This just makes me feel responsible for my future as part of my alma mater, and to represent it well. We, graduates of 2017, by our action, create the reputation and sow for the next generation of Maxwellians. And this realization is inspiring. I'm not only an individual anymore, I'm also a Maxwell citizen who is responsible to be successful, not only for my family, but also for my Maxwell country. Thank you all very much for the incredible experience to be a part of the amazing Maxwell School of Citizenship and Public Affairs.
Thank you, Aygul. Great job. It is now my pleasure to introduce to you Associate Dean Andrew London, who will recognize outstanding academic awards for 2017. Dean London is the Associate Dean for Finance and Administration and a Professor of Sociology in the Maxwell School. He is associated both with the Aging Studies Institute and the Center for Policy Research. His current research focuses on health, aging, and the life course, including studies that examine the life course consequences of ADHD, childhood cancer, and military service. Andrew?
Thank you very much. I am extremely happy to be here. My sincere congratulations to the graduates. Every year, each department in the Maxwell School reviews the dissertations from the candidates who have graduated in the last year. And they choose one for the doctoral dissertation prize. The graduate students in the doctoral programs in the Maxwell School do extraordinary research. This is a challenging task. I have the honor of presenting the awards for this year. I would ask that the winners come to the podium to be recognized. And I'll note that in the program, the titles for each dissertation are listed so you can see what they've been working on. To begin, in anthropology, under the supervision of advisor Cecilia Van Hollen, Mador Arun Lahokare. I'm not sure, is Mador here? Okay. In economics, Sherry Zahn, under the supervision of advisor Stuart Rosenthal. Down here. In geography, there are co-winners this year under the supervision of Farhana Sultana, Matul Baruha, who I believe is not here today, and under the supervision of Thomas Perrault, Alejandro Camargo. Is Alejandro here? No. In history, under the supervision of Subobasu Shravuni Biswas. In political science, under the supervision of Thomas Keck, Brandon Mitruka. In public administration and international affairs, under the supervision of Johnny Yinger, Ponju Zan. In social science, under the supervision of advisor Janet Wilmoth, Jeanette Zeckler. And in sociology, under the supervision of advisor Madonna Harrington-Meyer, Inez Abdul Malik. Please join me in a round of applause for all of the award winners. Each year also, the graduate school at Syracuse University solicits nominations and then presents awards for the outstanding teaching assistants. These awards are given to about 4% of all of the teaching assistants campus-wide. It's a very select group of students who work closely with the faculty and the undergraduates who receive these awards. So I'd like to read the list of the winners from the various departments, and then I'll ask them to stand for a round of applause if they're here. In sociology, Elizabeth Daniele. In history, Lee Duan. In economics, Ling Li. In economics, Judith Liu. In sociology, William Oliver. In anthropology, Sarah Platt. In anthropology, Jessica Posega. And in history, Matthew Stewart. If you are here, please rise and be recognized for your outstanding accomplishments.
Thank you, Andrew. Now the part of the ceremony that you've been waiting for, when we recognize each of our graduates. You have come from across the United States and all over the world. Some of you came to us freshly out of undergraduate studies, with little or no professional work experience. Some of you have had substantial prior work experience, and some of you have been juggling work, graduate school, and parenting. And for those of you in this latter category, we offer a special congratulations to you. Each of you will now be recognized as your name is read and you walk across the receiving ramp in front of us. Your names will be read by Josh Kennedy, the Assistant Director for Student Services in the Department of Public Administration and International Affairs, and Margaret Lane, the Assistant Director in the Executive Education Programs.
Well, don't all move at once. So we'll be reading the names by department, and I will announce each department as we change. Please. Ron An. Sherry Zhang. Shravani Biswas. Alexandra Elias. Lex Jing Lu. I know you. Ronit Berger. Alexandre Genet. Zachary Whitnick. Kevin Krupski. Judson Murchie. Nidhi Vij. Jeanette Zeckler. Inez Abdul Malik. Kasturi Gupta. Let me wait just a minute. Mr. Abdul Rahman Haband. And now we move to our master's students in economics. And I realize I've not said the other departments, and I apologize for that. Shisha Kang. Yuchi Wang. Wei Yuan. Chenggang Zhou. Ray Zheng. Zibo Meng. And now students receiving a Master of Arts in Geography. Andy Aguilar. Rochelle Berry. Anna Vandegrift. Now our students receiving a Master of Arts in History. Natalie Upward. Now our students in Political Science, Ms. Laura Jenkins. Jiayi Zheng. And now we move to students receiving a Master of Arts in International Relations. Yaron Dickerman. Alejandro Iscas Balseta Garcia. Vahid Hatami. James Sinkovic. Megan Sullivan. Ashley Bartlett. Liad Reutfarb. Christopher Winchell. Our next student is receiving a Master of Arts in International Relations and a Master of Arts in Economics, Zachary Finley. Our next group receives Masters of Arts in International Relations and a Master of Public Administration, Ms. Sarah Balmonk. Ms. Melissa Horst. Ms. Charlene Cordero. Sonia Rangel. And finally, Ms. Camila Urbina Escobar. Our next group will be alumni of our public diplomacy program, receiving a Master's of Science in Public Relations and a Master of Arts in International Relations. Ms. Rosalina Jowers. Jessica Laycock. Claudine Lim. Nicole Mojica. Janessa Price. Jordan Robinson. Megan Sewell. And our class marshal this year, Katrina Springer. Our final candidate will be receiving a Master's of Arts in International Relations and a Master's of Arts in Teaching and Curriculum. Ms. Gretchen Wesche.
And these are candidates for graduation for the Executive Master in Public Administration, Federico Fernandez Niavas. Gretchen Fitzgerald. Mireille Kukyan. Adriana Asine Aga Munoz. Excellent. Aygul Mammetnazarova. Yo Mishima. Perfect. Mavzuna Yaminova. Mustafa Yavzudimir. And the Master's in Public Administration, Kevin James O'Brien. Matthew Hamilton Mazzi. Derek John Taylor. Brett James Magellan. Polina Adamovich. Iman Jawad Kadem Al-Asfour. Nida Bakuri. Balakrishna. Sergey Milongeko Elambo. And MPA in Economics, Ronald Mack. MPA JD, James McCulley. Philip Perez. Master of Social Science, Elizabeth Cole. Master of Arts in Sociology, Jacob Bartholomew. Thank you. Michael Branch. Thank you. Dalton Stevens. Teresa Yura. Athrayi Dubé. Certificate of Advanced Study in Health Services Management and Policy, Kia Stroughton. Thank you. Melissa Vitale.
Could we have one more round of applause for our students, please? It is now my pleasure to introduce you to Associate Dean Carol Faulkner, who will recognize our 2017 Daniel Patrick Moynihan Award for Teaching and Research. Dean Faulkner is Professor of History and Associate Dean for Academic Affairs at the Maxwell School. She is the author of multiple books that explore the history of women, race, and social movements in the United States, including Lucretia Mott's Heresy, a biography of the pioneering Quaker minister, abolitionist, and women's rights activist. Carol?
Hi, congratulations, everyone. In 1986, Daniel Patrick Moynihan, who was a former Maxwell Junior faculty member from 1959 to 1961, and U.S. Senator and statesman, endowed the Daniel Patrick Moynihan Award to be presented annually to an outstanding, untenured faculty member who excels in teaching, research, and service. Moynihan described the crucial importance of retaining promising young faculty members and funded the award to help Maxwell do so. This award is the most valued recognition earned by a junior Maxwell faculty member. The 2017 recipients of the Daniel Patrick Moynihan Award for Teaching and Research are Azra Hrodmazik of Anthropology and Gladys McCormick of History. As an anthropologist, Azra Hrodmazik lists among her specialties ethno-political violence and post-conflict reconciliation, socialism and post-socialism, youth cultural practices, and the Balkans, of which she is a native. According to John Burdick, Chair of Anthropology, who nominated Azra for the Moynihan Award, her research is shaped in part by her experiences as a teenager during the war in Bosnia and Herzegovina, which bore in her an intense desire to make sense of her own confusing experiences and to understand their meaning for human social life. Her approach led to a detailed ethnography of post-war peace-building efforts called Citizens of an Empty Nation, Youth and State-Making in Post-War Bosnia and Herzegovina, published by the University of Pennsylvania Press in 2015. She now studies the politics of aging, care, and citizenship in post-war Bosnia, and she is in Bosnia now conducting this research. She is popular and top-rated in the classroom, where she views teaching as a conversation between herself and the students, and among the students as well. Her service to the school includes 4 departmental committees, the Ethnographic Lab Task Force, the International Relations Program Executive Board, the Maxwell Faculty Council, and the Political Anthropology Working Group, which she founded. Please join me in congratulating Azra. So Gladys, will you please stand? New to our program this year, our Daniel Patrick Moynihan Award winner is asked to be the featured speaker at Convocation. It is with great pleasure that I introduce Gladys McCormick not only as one of our Daniel Patrick Moynihan Award winners, but also as the 2017 Convocation speaker. Gladys McCormick is a historian who concentrates on Mexico, Latin America, and the Caribbean. She is the author of The Logic of Compromise in Mexico, How the Countryside Was Key to the Emergence of Authoritarianism, published by the University of North Carolina Press. The book examines the political importance of peasant sugar cooperatives and state-owned sugar mills in the Mexican provinces of Morelos and Puebla in the early 20th century. McCormick teaches a wide array of courses on Latin America, political violence, and oral history methods, and she has previously been recognized for her teaching with SU's Meredith Teaching Recognition Award. She's co-directed the documentary film and history master's program and now serves as interim director of Maxwell's program on Latin America and the Caribbean. Given changing U.S. immigration policies, McCormick provides counsel and assistance to individual students, administrators, and faculty regarding U.S. policies to deport undocumented immigrants. She is a member of the Ad Hoc Committee on DACA students, which will advise the Chancellor on strategies for assisting undocumented members of the Syracuse community. She was also recently elected to the History Department's Executive Committee. Please join me in congratulating Gladys.
All right, thank you, everybody. That was quite an introduction, so I very much appreciate it. I'd like to thank the Moynihan Selection Committee for this prestigious award, and also for Dean Van Slyke for the honor of speaking to you today. And of course, I'd like to congratulate the graduates. I'm especially thrilled to share this award with Azra, in part because I feel she and I have been sort of in lockstep throughout our careers here at Maxwell. So my research comes from the heart because, like Azra, I study a zone of conflict that was the region of my birth, where I came of age, and where my family still lives. As immigrants, Azra and I represent the international face of the Maxwell School. And I'm grateful that this is an institution that places value on both nurturing and highlighting the work of individuals such as us. I left my home country of Costa Rica when I was 20 for an education in the United States, with memories of the wars in Central America during the 1980s as part of my past. Like many of you in this room, I was a first-generation student, and I benefited from generous scholarships and the mentorship of many professors in carving out my professional path. So along the way, I lived for extended periods in 4 countries and acquired 3 citizenships. This raised a lot of flags with the Homeland Security Department when I applied to become a U.S. citizen a few years ago, and made for a very long and tense interview. So being so physically removed from one's home country can sometimes make it challenging to know where home is. And I envy those with families close by who have a sense of rootedness over the place that they live in, who can go to the grocery store and easily find their comfort foods. Nevertheless, I find consolation in the fact that I, as a proud immigrant, and I say that all the more emphatically in today's political climate, I made a conscious and very patriotic choice to make this my country, the place where my daughters were born and where I contribute to helping new generations of fellow Americans. It doesn't mean that that sense of displacement went away. Now it enhances my research and my teaching in a variety of ways. Most importantly, because I get to introduce students to this region, to Latin America and the Caribbean. And I try to convey that I'm not simply talking about events from the past, but that I'm also discussing a history that's very much interwoven with the present. I urge students to see the contemporary world in which they live in as something other than inevitable and unchanging, and to understand how their interpretation of the past profoundly affects their decisions and actions in the future. I teach about worst-case scenarios, and this is also very much like Azra. What happens when the rule of law breaks, when institutions fail, when governments collapse? I teach about revolutions, utopian visions of large-scale social change, and what emerges when the dust settles. I teach about political violence, when those entrusted to protect us are those who hurt us. I teach about war, Civil War, Cold War, drug war. In between gruesome stories and heart-wrenching tales of torture, genocide, and massacres, I also teach about inventiveness, ingenuity, gumption, and feats of survival. I challenge students to rethink stereotypes and romantic visions of the past. I draw images of heroes who call on millions to take up arms and usher in a new order. And then I teach students how to tear these leaders down and recreate them as human. Because to truly honor someone's sacrifice, we don't need a fairy tale. This brings me to the second point that I'd like to touch on this morning, which is the research. As with all Maxwell faculty, my research is built in steady dialogue with my teaching. When I worked on corruption and political violence in Mexico, I taught about corruption and political violence in Latin America. When I grappled with interviewing folks for a project on historical memory, I got to teach about the ins and outs of doing oral history to graduate students. Now that I work on drug trafficking in Mexico, I teach about drug trafficking in Latin America. This makes research so much more rewarding because it happens in dialogue with many of the men and women in this room today, and it recognizes that there's a collaborative element to the creative process. As for what I'm working on now, I'll confess that I was a little apprehensive to talk about it because it's not exactly for the faint of heart. My recent work looks at the history of torture in Mexico since the 1970s and tracks it to today as part of the drug war. So despite the fact that there's a consensus that torture happens all over Mexico, we know very little about it because of government censorship. And to get at this history, I painstakingly work my way through declassified intelligence and secret police files from both the Mexican and the US governments. I also collect interviews with both torturers and victims to track down what happened inside of the torture chamber and how it has changed across time. I've taken this study of torture to a more contemporary period because it's so present in Mexico today, which has the highest rate of killings in the world after Syria and higher than Iraq or Afghanistan by a long margin. This meant that I learned the ins and outs of making and transporting cocaine and heroin, about opium dens, and even money laundering. And this was a world that was beyond foreign to me, yet with its own logic, with its own rules, and its own set of characters. I was astounded to learn that drug cartels are in fact very well-run transnational corporations predicated on the threat of violence and very well-versed in the act of torture. Doing this type of research in Maxwell is thrilling because I'm not in an intellectual silo, and I can move between disciplines to get answers that I need from both students and faculty alike. These conversations also straddle the practical because I can find audiences here, including many of our graduates today, that engage or will engage in making policy. To me, this is critical because working on a pressing human rights issue can't solely be an intellectual exercise, and there needs to be a very real-world component to it. So yes, I'm forever grateful to be a part of the Maxwell community, which is the closest thing that I have to a home. Now, if only they'd give me a passport. I want to finish today by telling you about something that happened last week in a faraway place that highlights what I mean about the real-world applications to what we do as faculty. I met with several alumni from Maxwell's MPA program in Lima, Peru. It was an informal get-together over wine and assorted picaditos, which is Peruvian food is just amazing. The alumni that I talked with had graduated 5, 10, 15 years ago, and they represented this beautiful dissection of what awaits you in all your careers over the next decade and a half. While some work for the private sector, most are firmly ensconced in the public sector and expressed a great deal of pride in helping their country progress. They all had very fond memories of Maxwell, the friendships they made, the professors they had, the projects that they worked on. They talked about the individualized attention that they received from faculty, and which was unique from other similar schools. Oddly enough, they agreed that the weather had actually helped them focus on their work while here. They concurred that their respective commitments to public service were deeply rooted in the values that they learned while here. And aside from their professional careers, these individuals volunteer to help the less fortunate and go out of their way to mentor new generations of public servants that didn't have the opportunities to study abroad that they did. So stepping away from this meeting, I was struck by how these alumni put into practice the word inscribed atop of the entrance of Eggers, citizenship. Even more impressive because they do so year after year, affirming that commitment across time. So as I look around the hall today, I know many of you will be like these Peruvian alumni, and I know that you have been trained well. I am confident that you are well on your way to figuring out what citizenship means to you and how you're going to put that into practice. So congratulations, and I wish you all the very best.
Thank you very much, Gladys. Other faculty members of the Maxwell community were also recognized for outstanding achievements this year. The Laura J. and L. Douglas Meredith Professorships were created in 1995 to recognize and reward outstanding teaching at the university. The Teaching Recognition Awards program was established in 2001 through an expansion of the Laura J. and L. Douglas Meredith Professorship program. Recipients are selected for teaching innovation, effectiveness in communicating with students, and the lasting value of courses. Only 2 individuals from the entire Syracuse University community are selected each year. And Maxwell has done very well historically. This year, the recipient for Maxwell is Professor Jackie Orr of Sociology. Would you please join me in congratulating Jackie? The university also recognizes excellence in teaching at the non-tenured faculty rank. This year, Jeff Gonda of History and Janelle Robinson of Geography received the university's Meredith Teaching Recognition Awards. Please join me in congratulating Jeff and Janelle. The Chancellor's Citation for Excellence seeks to recognize members of the university community who have made invaluable contributions to Syracuse University in 2 overarching ways: through commitment to scholarship and research that contributes to new understandings of world and creative responses to its needs, and through advancing the 4 pillars of Chancellor Kent Severud's vision to foster excellence at Syracuse University by providing an outstanding undergraduate experience, empowering research excellence, fostering change and innovation, and positioning Syracuse as the best university in the world for veterans. The Award for Faculty Excellence and Scholarly Distinction is intended for faculty members who are collaborators in work of intellectual richness that has the potential for future impact. This work should offer possibilities for collaboration within the university and outside in partnership with others. This year's Syracuse University recipient is Professor Jennifer Caras-Montes of the Sociology Department in Maxwell. Please join me in congratulating Jennifer. The Graduate School also honors faculty members whose dedication to graduate students and commitment to excellence in graduate teaching and mentoring have made a significant contribution to graduate education at Syracuse University. The 2017 recipients from the Maxwell faculty are Azra Hermatiak of Anthropology and Professor Elizabeth Lash Quinn of History. Please congratulate me in joining Azra and Elizabeth. The Board of Higher Education and the Ministry of the United Methodist Church sponsors the United Methodist Scholar Teacher of the Year Award at Syracuse University annually since 1982 to recognize the teaching and scholarship of an outstanding professor. This award gives explicit emphasis to the dual nature of a faculty member's responsibilities as a scholar or creative artist and teacher. This year's recipient is Maxwell's very own Professor Tom Perot of Geography. Please congratulate Professor Moreau. Being the chair of a department or program is a demanding leadership position. This year, we have 6 outstanding faculty members who have come to the end of their terms as department chair. Please join me in thanking the following individuals who are concluding their duties at the end of this academic year. And to the chairs, if you are present today, please come forward as I call your name and accept a small token of our appreciation from the Maxwell School for all that you have done. Professor John Burdick of Anthropology. Professor Michael Ebner of the History Department. Professor Mary Lovely, who has led our undergraduate international relations program. Professor Mirzad Borjordi of political science. Professor Madonna Harrington-Meyer of the Department of Sociology. And Professor Vernon Green of Social Science, who is unable to join us today. On behalf of the Maxwell School, I want to express my sincere gratitude for your service and the many contributions you have made. I would like to now acknowledge Professor Michael Wasilenko. Professor Wasilenko has a long relationship with the Maxwell School. From his time as a graduate student earning a PhD in economics to when he ultimately returned to Syracuse University as an associate professor of economics in 1986. In the 31 years since his return, Mike has done every job in the building, from professor to department chair to associate dean, senior associate dean, interim dean, and in that time he has contributed significantly to the life and the culture of the Maxwell School. Mike is selfless, humble, earnest, and deeply committed to high-quality teaching and an enriching student experience, scholarship that is rigorous and relevant to the contemporary policy challenges facing governments around the world, and to mentoring generations of public servants, instructors, scholars, and administrators. We on this stage know of his mentorship firsthand, and he has been instrumental in helping Associate Deans Barrett, Faulkner, London, and myself in learning about how the school and the university works and leading Maxwell forward. Mike embodies what it means to be an active and engaged citizen of the Maxwell School, and that commitment is deeply aligned with the school's values, as intentionally articulated in the Athenian Oath. In recognition of the significant contributions that Professor Wasilenko has made to Syracuse University and the Maxwell School, we are honored today to appoint him as Maxwell Advisory Board Professor of Economics. According to the Maxwell Advisory Board Chairman, Mr. Ronald O'Hanley, he says, and I quote, "In a university setting, most of the attention is rightfully focused on students and faculty. Few understand or appreciate the incredible work that occurs behind the curtain to ensure that the student and faculty experience is first-rate. For 31 years, Mike Wasilenko has served and has enabled Maxwell to deliver the outcomes for which it is so widely recognized. In a period of diminished resources and increased competition, he has positioned Maxwell to meet and exceed rising expectations. The Maxwell Advisory Board salutes and thanks Mike for his service and looks forward to his ongoing contributions as part of the faculty. Mike, would you please join me here at the podium? And to the faculty, graduates, and supporters, please join me in congratulating Professor Michael Wasilenko on being named Maxwell Advisory Board Professor of Economics. Thank you so much, Mike, for all that you have and continue to do for the school. As we move to the end of the ceremony, I would be remiss if I did not thank our incredible Maxwell School staff for all their hard work in planning this event and the superb work they do all year long. Please join me in particular in recognizing Kathleen Fenney, who has organized this very meaningful event, along with Margaret Lane, Josh Kennedy, the great staff of ICT, numerous administrative staff volunteers from across all Maxwell departments, and the faculty that have worked with passion and commitment to ensuring that you've had the most enriching experience possible. Could we please thank all the staff? An academic program is only as good as its faculty. So for the faculty, would you please all stand? And to the audience, would you please join me in acknowledging the faculty's dedication and service to the students, the Maxwell School, and the university. They are an amazing group of teachers, scholars, and colleagues, and we want to thank them for their continued commitment to excellence. Before we end our ceremony and send you off to celebrate with your friends and family, we will conclude with a great Maxwell tradition, the reading of the Athenian Oath. I ask that you all rise and join me in reciting the oath located on the back of your program. We will ever strive for the ideals and sacred things of the city, both alone and with many. We will ceasingly seek to quicken the sense of public duty. We will revere and obey the city's laws. We will transmit this city not only not less, but greater, better, and more beautiful than it was transmitted to us. Thank you very much. I hope that you may be seated. I hope that your time spent at the Maxwell School will serve you well in the years to come. You have made friends that will last a lifetime. Friends are important, but what unites you as friends also unites you with Maxwell alumni. By using the skills and knowledge learned here at Maxwell, you will, to paraphrase the Athenian Oath one last time, make the city greater than it was transmitted to you and become a part of the soul of the Maxwell School. On behalf of all of us here on the stage and the faculty and staff who could not be here today. It has been our great pleasure getting to know you during your time here at Maxwell. We can't wait to see all of the amazing things that you accomplish, and we hope you'll keep in touch. Don't be afraid to brag to us. It's one of the very best parts of our job. And now, how about one more round of applause for the 2017 graduating class. We will recess as follows. The official party on the stage will leave first. Students will follow row by row from the front to the back, led by your class marshal, Katrina Springer. And I ask the guests to remain in place until all of the students have recessed. I invite you all to a reception honoring the students outside in the Maxwell courtyard, where you can enjoy light refreshments. And now, the 2017 Maxwell Graduate Convocation is adjourned. Thank you so much.